People are busy. Let's get through this as quickly as we can. No, we're really looking forward. We have a good agenda, lots to talk about, and thank you all for joining. Do we want to start, Don, with an attendance? Don, should we try to get an attendance? Go through the list real quick.
Yeah, I've been marking people as they show up.
Great. All right. In the meantime, do we have any comments on the minutes from last month?
Yeah, I've got some weird feedback there. Hang on a second. So Dave's here. Susan Flam, I don't see her on yet. Lisa Bouchard-Ho, I don't have her. Will Powers, I don't see him on here yet. Deb Conrad is here. John Bradley's here. Jen Phillips is here. Kara Boyle, I don't have. Matt Stinchcom.
I talked to Matt. He couldn't make it. I'll give his update later.
Okay, and Matt Mercier. I don't see him here. Jolene's on. Sean Casey, not here yet. Stan Yarian. Steve Powers, I see you were on. It's like John Leone, not here. Kathy's here. Betsy Albert, I don't see her signed on yet. I think I just saw Tom Pano just signed on. And Laura Canamella.
And Kara Boyle just joined.
Kara Boyle just signed on. Okay. And Donal, I don't see Donal on here yet.
Donal sent an email just now that he had an emergency, couldn't join. Won't be able to join today, unfortunately, sends his regrets.
Okay. Tara's here, Terrence is here, Christina's here, and Audrey's here. So I think we're all set.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Don. Any comments on the minutes from last week? Any changes, additions, omissions? Great. We'll take a motion and a second real quick to approve them. Thank you, Terrence and Steve, for that, for making the motion and the second. Anyone oppose? Please speak up. Great. They're all adopted unanimously. Okay, let's jump on in. We've got a lot to talk about, but I think we'll be pretty quick. We always try to be respectful of everyone's time. Looks like one more joined, Don, Laura. Mm-hmm. Hi, Laura. The CAP, the Climate Action Plan. So let's recap on the CAP. We are looking to get county approval to apply for a matching grant, which would allow us to raise a total of $90,000 in cash and $30,000 in professional and volunteer in-kind support from the county and from our task force. The grant itself that we'd be applying for is $60,000, and so we're asking the county to permit us to apply for it, or to be technical, have the planning department and the county apply for it with our support, with a $30,000 contribution from the county, and of course fronting the money, which is a reimbursable grant, so fronting a full 90 and getting 60 back. Don has worked on, a few of us have worked on an update to the government committee, which is kind of a memo which describes why and what and how we plan on doing this. The grants we've heard are going to be opened up in the next week or two. This is a DEC grant program, and will probably be due in mid to late summer. So we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row now, including, most importantly, the county getting on board, the Board of Supervisors. So this went to the government committee a couple of months ago. They gave approval to continue to work on the grant preliminarily, and are planning on reviewing this again at the upcoming government committee meeting this month. And that's what that memo is for. We are seeking funding for consulting to hire both technical consultant to help us with the drafting of the cap itself. We've talked to a couple and are part of our due diligence now, so we have a sense of what we're looking for and even who we might talk to about hiring when we put an RFP out. And we also are looking for some support on public relations and outreach, because we really think stakeholder engagement will be vitally important for the success of this program. And we would like to have some smaller funds available to help complement the greenhouse gas inventory that's being done by the capital region right now for our county and surrounding counties that we'll rely on for the cap. We'd like to supplement that with a more robust look at sources and sinks of emissions from land use in the county, so that can be something we can focus on, as we are we have a lot of forests, a lot of farmland, a lot of natural areas, which can really help bolster our ability to both mitigate and adapt to climate change. And so we want to really dial in on that as part of this planning program. Just to remind everyone, the reasons why we do this, I mean, planning is good practice in general. We haven't had anything like this. It will allow us easier and better access to grants in the future. It will allow us to have a more methodical program for prioritizing projects for the county. It will allow the county to integrate those projects in a more planned out way with their other, ongoing kind of obligations and responsibilities for the county. And so this is a way of helping to integrate climate work into the everyday work of the county, as it touches so many aspects of government operations. And of course, this is not just government, but this would be, in addition to how the government manages its own programs, a lot of recommendations, policy, projects, and others, information and resources that could be marshaled to help the community in general reduce its emissions over time, which is, all the projects we've worked on and many more, but it's an opportunity to create a roadmap and a plan for us to be more methodical and strategic about how we approach these individual activities or actions, and how we can leverage more power. So Jennifer, good timing.
Hi, Dave. Sorry I wasn't here last month. Can you tell us when? It concerns me that the county folks still would like to ponder this, since we need to jump on it as soon as possible, but we don't want to put effort in if they're going to say no. Do we have when is that meeting, and do they realize that they need to make a decision by then, because otherwise we might miss our opportunity to apply?
The government.
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure. Thank you, Brenda.
Okay. So Jennifer, we do realize this, and I think the comment in the more recent county government committee meeting was that we couldn't approve a grant without the grant having been issued. So we're waiting for the grant to be issued. But what we did approve was for the staff to go ahead and start working on and making the preparations for the grant, so that there would not be a rush at the end to complete the grant. But we can't reply to a grant that hasn't been released yet.
Right. And so what is the timing of the meeting when that decision will be made?
The county government meeting will meet
It's the week after next, I believe, 2 weeks roughly.
So like
Yes.
mid-May, essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the grant was due June or July, David?
July.
I think it was July last year, and it depends
Yeah.
on, when it's released. There's a certain minimum amount of time. We heard, Don, you heard what did you hear about the release? Didn't you hear something recently?
Well, Tara, last year, I think Tara said it was usually the beginning of May, which is now. So it could be any day now, but, there's no guarantee. But yes, it has to be. And last time the deadline for submitting it was end of July. So we have plenty of time to get it through the committees and adopt and approved by the board. And I have been working on, I'm working on elements of it. So I have a fairly complete work plan, which is part of the application process. I have a fairly complete budget put together, which is also part of the application process. I got most of the pieces together. We've checked that we do have access to both the grants gateway and the CFA application portals. So, we're pretty much set to go.
Great.
It's
Excellent.
just a matter of we don't have the final grant program hasn't been published, so we may have to tweak those
Right.
elements a little bit so they so that they are in accordance with DEC requirements. But we've got the bulk of it is ready to go. Yeah.
So
And I think it's on everybody's radar. We understand.
great. So Dave, since there's a subcommittee that's working on the, I wasn't here last month, but as soon as you'll let us know and we need to jump into action.
Yeah. Thank you for that, for your involvement. But I do, and thanks, Don. It's great to have someone who's organized, and you're a planner, and so he's got the plan. And thanks to Brenda and to the other supervisors for helping to shepherd this through. I do think it's working through in a methodical and organized way, and I'm confident that it'll work out from what I've heard. But these are all good questions. The next step is for us to just finalize this little memo. It's pretty much done. It's it's an overarching kind of description of what and why and how that Don has worked on. And we want to just make sure it addresses any of the lingering questions that might arise. And none of which I think will trip up the approval, but it's just, questions that are out there. And the more we can just kind of address them proactively, the smoother and faster I think everything will just get approved. But so that's the story there. And then, the timing is we wouldn't hear until likely early 2025. And then there's an RFP that we would put out, which would take us maybe 6 months. And so we're looking at mid 2025 until we're actually engaged with a consultant. Doesn't mean we can't do preliminary work once we know this is coming, and then we can talk about that once the grant has been approved in the fall. Some of the preliminary work is our next item on the agenda, conveniently, which is the greenhouse gas inventories that are being done both for the county government operations, which Don is doing internally with his colleagues, and also Tara is leading up. I don't know if Tara is leading up, but the CDRPC is leading up. I think Tara's leading up everything, so I just assume it's Tara, but maybe she can give us a quick update on that as well. But before we move on to the inventories, are there any other questions about the cap itself or this the process? Okay, great. So Don, you want to start with just a quick update on I don't know if you have much of an update, but on where we're at or when you expect to be completed with the county operations inventory?
Yeah, just I continue to pick away at it a little bit at a time. It has to be done. The goal is to have it done, and it will be done before we actually start working on the cap. If we get the grant to do that, that's one of the GHG inventory is required part of the government operations cap that we're applying for. So
great.
It's really just a bunch of copying and pasting numbers into a spreadsheet and doing the math, and kind of not very exciting work, but
is it anything we've talked about this in the past, getting into it, right? Is there anything that would be helpful? Is it something that you could plug someone into to help with
well, the problem is it's all internal government invoices and numbers, so it really has to be done by a staff person.
Yeah.
you know, so I would appreciate help on it, but I don't think that's possible, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Don, does
Yeah.
does the planning department get one of the summer interns?
We haven't had one since like the year before I started here, so it's been quite a while.
Okay,
But we
just
do
thinking that might
look
be an
into it
outlet
every year.
for
Yeah.
assistance.
Hi, Tara. Good to see you. Would you mind giving us an update, please, on the regional inventory? Thank you.
Absolutely. And before I do, I just want to mention, and Don knows this as well, I think that I'm here to help support the county government operations cap if you guys need, or not cap, obviously support the cap with the inventory if you need my help. So if there's anything, it's a big undertaking, but I've done it a bunch of times. So if you run into any barriers, let me know. But yeah, as far as the regional community greenhouse gas operations inventory, we are working on that. It'll be an update to the 2010 inventory for the region. We're also trying to do it in a intelligent way this time, where we don't silo ourselves from the rest of the state. So we're collaborating with partners in Buffalo and Rochester and some of the other regional organizations to make sure we're getting the same data from the state and keeping a consistent process, so that the data that's coming to us that we need for these inventories, like energy use and electricity and natural gas and some of those things that should be bulk, from some of the state departments, are coming to us in a kind of efficient manner that we can access in the future. So we're and then the state as well, obviously, however they're handling this process. So that's kind of the step we're on right now, is data gathering, which I guess is kind of the bulk of the whole thing, really, once you get into it. But yeah, a lot of data, a lot of work. But we're intending to have this done by hopefully the end of the year, and to update that dashboard that we have on our website. If you haven't seen that yet, you can get your 2010 community inventory data for any town, village, city, county in the region on our CDRPC website. So we encourage you to explore that. And then, of course, that will be updated once we have the new inventory completed.
That's great, Tara. Do you have any detail or anything you can share on what advances may or may not have occurred in the area of land use? Because I know that you said that there's a more EPA is funding this grant, I believe, and that they've kind of expanded the mandate there, where they want to see more. Is that right? They want to see a
Yeah,
more
that's going to be required, whereas it wasn't really a big piece of our pie in 2010 when we did it, because that was a pretty low funded inventory update. So we haven't really dove into it yet, but we are expected to kind of start doing that soon. Another piece that I'll mention that's kind of correlating with that is we have to do our comprehensive climate action plan for the region. We did a priority one, it was like a short-term thing that we had to kind of quickly put together with the EPA funding. But now we need to dive deeper. And with that short-term one, we focused on the core sectors. So residential, transportation, those big chunks of the pie, if you will. But now we need to dive into some of these other smaller kind of pot pieces of the pie. And we're looking to develop some working groups, like for agriculture, for example, which is a big piece of this agricultural land use, talking to the folks kind of in the field that know this and that can help us understand the best strategies that make sense to put in this plan, because we're not creating strategies that don't make sense. We're just kind of trying to take all the ideas and things that are happening out there and put them as goals in this plan. So stay tuned for that. And if anyone has any insight as to best contacts for that, I think we're looking into that right now. My director, Todd, has already started to have some conversations, maybe with some folks on this call about that. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, great. Thanks for the update. Any questions for Tara, Don, on the inventories? All righty. Well, let's turn to the carnival. I know there was a call recently, and a lot of work's being done. Jolene, are you?
I'm here.
All right.
I'm here.
You wanna give us
So,
some-
yep, we had our first meeting. It was very successful. We had a good turnout. We have a lot of things in the works. We had a generous offer from Redwood Climate Communications to do our marketing and promotions for us. We also had a meeting with PS21. They're in the process of figuring out how they're going to participate. One of their ideas was to bring a UK circus over. Of course, there's a lot of details and funding that they're working out. But if that can happen, it's going to be absolutely amazing. If not, they're working up a backup plan. Basilica has generously offered anything that we need. So we're going to be trying to tap into that for some possible entertainment or donations. Meeting, we discussed the repair cafe, different strategies moving forward. And of course, spread the word. We need vendors to sign up and donations to come in.
And Jolene, thanks for the update. How much are you looking to raise? What's the current budget, or what's the current nut that you need to fill?
Don?
Well, we had a budget of about 6,500 last time, and I think that is the minimum we would need to have a successful event. We have a full budget of like $10,000 for some other things, but we have CEDC, who is our fiscal agent, who's handling the money coming in and going out this time, is also generously donated $2,500, which will cover. So we now have the event, the venue is paid for, and the birds of prey, we have enough money to pay for those, and a few other miscellaneous things. So I think we're okay, but it's just a matter of raising a few more dollars to pay for bands and if you pay for them and things, and audio equipment, things like that.
So if anyone here has contacts or relationships with local businesses, with local foundations, or any organization or individual who you think might be willing and able to make a contribution, there's some promotional materials that can get sponsorship identification and things like that. So please reach out to Jolene and Don with those contacts, or they can help coordinate how to communicate if you need help with those folks. Thank you. Brenda.
Jolene, could you send out, or Don, could you send out the sponsorship information so we can, and also a list of people who previously sponsored so that we don't contact somebody else's contact?
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Very, very exciting. Jennifer.
Just, can you say again what the date is?
It's February 4th or September 14th from 11 until 3.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I'm excited about the date change. That's going to be great. It's a great time of year to do it. Last time was good, but we were in the middle of the summer, so we had, I think, a surprisingly nice turnout for the first event in the middle of the summer. But a lot of people are traveling in the summer, so this is great. Very exciting. Well, thanks for all the good work to the committee that's helping you, and to Jolene and Don in particular. It's a really cool event. I'm glad we're doing it again. It's going to be great. Any other questions for Jolene or Don, or comments? Don't be shy if there's anyone that's new and it isn't kind of fully up to speed on what we're talking about, or wasn't aware of the previous one or anything like that. There's no bad questions. Want to make sure people are aware and able to talk and in an informed way about these things to people in your communities and your networks when it comes up. That's a big part of what we're doing, is being a conduit out into the community, both directions, bringing information in and then spreading it and going back out. So the next, I don't know if there's much of an update on the CARP, but is there an update, Don?
Audrey's here.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
You want to say something more?
It's not really an update, but kind of a capstone for CART. So the climate adaptation and resilience plans are completed and finalized, and they've been submitted to the DEC. This was funded through a climate leadership services contract with actually Capital District Regional Planning Commission as part of a larger project, but funded through the DEC. And I just wanted to say, thank you to everyone. And, the experience was great. And I think I wanted to just, tell everybody to be proud of yourselves. We kind of piloted this process with a large cohort of, ultimately, it was 18 municipalities. We did 16 through this funding stream, and then we had 2 others that we were able to facilitate with another funding stream. And I also just want to encourage everybody to look at this as the tip of the iceberg. So this was really an effort to kind of get a foundation to be expanded on and updated into the future. And also that the process itself is just as important as the plan. So, the conversations that were ignited and the connections that were made, and even the awareness we kind of raised regarding the impacts of climate change and climate adaptation itself, I think were, huge benefits of the process. So I also did looking to the future and considering revisions. These kinds of things could potentially be funded through Climate Smart Communities grants and CFAs. So if there is interest to take a deeper dive, those are potential ways that these opportunities can be funded. And then I just had I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some work that we're going to be doing with some Columbia County communities over the next year or so, and another climate related project as well. So we're going to be working with several communities to create emergency preparedness content for their websites and social as well, actually print material, website content, and social media posts that can be used to fulfill PE9, which is the education and engagement action, as well as the social media action. So we're going to be working with the town of Canaan, the town of Kinderhook, and the village of Philmont on those projects. And then we're also with the town of Kinderhook going to be doing some culvert assessments, and we're developing a flood preparedness guide with them as well. 2 additional projects, we're working with the town of Ghent to help them incorporate sustainability into their comprehensive planning update that's currently going on. That's also I think it's in PE6. It's an action. And then we're also working with the town of Stuyvesant to do an assessment of where they stand in the Climate Smart Communities program. So we go through each action, see what ones they've completed, what they're in progress, and what they're interested in pursuing to achieve certification. So those are some big projects. And then one other project I'm doing kind of in partnership with our agroforestry team is a forest carbon educational program. So there's going to be 3 webinars that we'll be hosting this year, and 1 Woods Walk we'll be hosting at Soyuz Meadow Forest. We're doing this in partnership with the Nature Conservancy, and we're also going to be talking about forest carbon, how that works, and then also describing and understanding how forest carbon programs work as well. So those are some upcoming things, and I'll keep you all in the loop on promotion and stuff like that for those events.
Are those events open for the general public to participate in?
Yes. Yep, the webinars will be open to the public, and generally our target audience is forested landowners, because they're will have the most impact. and have potential opportunities to look for forest carbon programs as well.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much, Audrey. A lot of good updates there. One thing on the CARP, there's a website with the folders for all of the documents that includes the PDFs and Word versions of those reports for the towns and for the county. So if you're involved in your town, that document is intended to be owned and updated by the community, by the town or by the county. And so that makes it very easy to do so. This isn't something that's just intended to kind of check a box and be on a shelf. It's intended to be kind of, now that there's something there, there's a foundation to kind of be brought forward and owned by those communities, those governments. So Don can share that link. I don't have it offhand, but he can throw it in the chat, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll send out a link. I also have, it's also posted on our website too, all the documents. So
Oh, it is now. Great. Perfect.
but I'll send out the link too after.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Audrey. Supervisor Adams.
So I just wanted to say that the county and the various towns in the county are going through an update of their hazard mitigation plan, which has to be done every 5 years. The largest piece of this update was associated with climate adaptation. So the timing and the reporting associated with the CARP were instrumental in our ability to get this work done in a timely fashion. And also, I think the response to the surveys for the hazard mitigation plan were very light. So with Audrey's cooperation, we combined the survey data from both plans so that we'll have a broader survey base associated with many of the same questions. Wouldn't you agree, Audrey? I think.
Yeah.
And so I just want to thank this committee for doing that work and for doing it quickly so that we could, use it in another program to good advantage.
That's great news. Laura. Hi, Laura.
Hi. There was a link that Don sent out previously, and I think it's also in the agenda here that has all those plans that you had mentioned. And I don't see Valatia on that. And I checked with people and they said, oh, everything's in. And so I'm like, well, why isn't it there? Or whatever.
Yes, so I mentioned there were 2 communities that we had done this work with a different funding stream. So the timeline was a little shifted for those 2 communities. That's the town of Kinderhook and the village of Valatia. So we're just wrapping up those. We're incorporating some final comments and we'll be posting those. And I'll make sure to directly send them to the folks in Valatia as well as Don so he can get them posted. Okay. As well.
Thanks for that. I was just worried.
Oh, no, don't be worried.
Don?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention on sort of a personal observation that, I used to work as a planning consultant and I've worked on multiple, plans that involve multiple municipalities. And my toughest one was when we were working for 4 towns on an ag plan all at the same time. And I can't imagine doing 18 at the same time, Audrey. Yeah. So I can just visualize what was happening in the rooms in the background while all this was going on. So I just want to recognize you that I feel
Thanks,
for you. Okay.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
There was a lot of work that I think a lot of people may not realize how tough that was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was, but we were, in the future, we probably will try to do this in a slightly smaller cohorts, but we really did find a benefit to doing it kind of in a cohort style. Like I mentioned at the workshops, like the conversations and networking, and I think kind of the general kind of understanding of everybody that we're all kind of going through very similar things and maybe how it's working in other communities. There was a lot of idea sharing and stuff that I think was absolutely great. So thanks, Don.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who participated and supported that process. John.
That's me. First of all, I've participated in this process, and I have to really commend the Cornell group for pulling together an enormous amount of information. And somebody told me that you were not highly remunerated for the program. And that's important because given that you had very limited funding, I think you did a really remarkable job of pulling together a lot of information. And I don't want to underestimate the quality and the amount of work that you did and how good it is. I wanted to also, because it was so underfunded, and in spite of the fact that you did such a good job, I think there's important lessons. I know from my experience in one town, there's several lessons that I think are particularly important. I've expressed them to the staff, but I just sort of want to get a couple of points on the record for the future. First of all, with all of this enormous amount of information, it's still a very unwieldy organization of the information, and it's very hard at the local level to use. I don't have a town board that wants to spend much time talking about climate stuff, and I don't think we're unusual. And so I have almost no idea of how do I take some of that information and make it useful, so my town board can listen and say, well, here's what I think you should do. I know the information's there, but it's not organized in a way that's useful. I mean, in general, floodplains are floodplains, and there's a lot of things that could be grouped for the entire county. Going back and forth between county and the town is very hard in that. And I'm going to post it. I'm going to make some sort of presentation, very brief presentation to my town board, but I don't know how they will use it because it's hard to do it. But I know the information's there, and I know that they don't want to dig it out. Anyway, so that's something that I think is important, and I've shared some of my thoughts on that. The other thing that's missing, and I realize Cornell's not to blame, but I think it's the climate movement in general, is, and we've talked about it a couple times in this meeting and other meetings, is the impact of land use on weather and on rain. If we're looking at serious flooding and all these things, that's rain, it's really important to understand how important soil is and all these other things. We've discussed it, but I think that just for the record, we want to try to integrate more of that into the work we do, because we may be afraid to or not be able to tell a landowner what to do, but there's no reason why we can't help them understand what good practice is and what bad practice is. And I realize it's a touchy issue. But in general, it's a huge amount of work, and I worked in planning agencies, countywide planning agencies in my life, and I know that's hugely difficult. And I don't want to seem critical, but I think it's important that, at least from my point of view, those are two important lessons.
Yeah, that's an important part of any project is reflection and, understanding where improvements can be made. And also, I wonder, it occurred to me that some of the information you're looking for might have actually been kind of included in some of the educational components of the project. We did a webinar, and we had presentations at both of the workshops. I'd be happy to share those if it's helpful to, kind of have some resources of educational materials that we put together for the project. So I can forward those along, and I'm fine. I can happily share the actual PowerPoint so people can edit and potentially use them if they want to.
Thank you. I'll get back in touch with you if when I need some. The other thing I wanted to make is I'd be very interested in knowing what other towns do to take to their town board. I mean, I'm going to post it on the website. There's things I can do, but how do you, if other people have found ways of just throwing things out to their town board and their community, it'd be very helpful to share some of those, because I'm not sure where to start, and I could think of lots of things that would be interesting, but I don't know how to do it in the time that I have. So other people's experience in taking it to their community would be of interest to me.
Yeah, John, you're raising a lot of good points. I think many of us agree and have observed similar opportunities and challenges. I mean, this is, first of all, just a great foundation to start. And there's a lot of information. How do we use it now? How do we help evolve the information, including more relevant information, bring that to the fore? And how do we then bring that to the processes in our towns, in our communities, so that these documents are top of mind, and not the documents, but the information and the considerations that they bring to mind, the examples, what to look out for, what to do. All of these plans and planning processes are only useful if they integrate into our day-to-day, week-to-week thinking of how we operate, individually and as communities. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for folks to form a group, if there's interest, who will dig down into their town's plans or the county plan and put some thought into these questions moving forward, and then maybe solicit some feedback from some willing planning board members or town board members or supervisors to try to kind of identify some answers to these questions as to what information is useful and how do we bring it to the fore, what information is lacking and could be developed over time, and how to actually operationalize or use some of this information.
Yeah, okay.
I know there's no more funding for this. Maybe we could apply for some sort of support but if and we're all volunteers otherwise, and we're all busy. So I don't know if there's interest, but if there is, I know John is interested, and I'm sure we're all interested. And if there's someone who is interested and also feels like they could put some time into this, maybe there's a group of people that could focus on this and bring some information back to the task force as a whole that could be useful. Maybe that's the basis of a future grant application for some additional add-on work for these plans. If you are interested, and you think about it, please just let me and Don know.
Yeah, and if there is interested in pursuing something a little more formal with some funding, we would certainly support, be able to help support that, or be interested in trying to support that as well.
But did I understand you correctly, Audrey, to say that you were working with the town of Ghent on incorporating sustainability issues or plans into their comp plan? So if that's a pilot, maybe that if that's successful, maybe that's something that we could look at it at a larger scale for funding for next year, if that seems to be a useful tool.
Yeah, it's we've actually done it with some other communities as well. It's actually, so this is a little different because we're following the Climate Smart Communities action. So there's some required elements that we'll look to incorporate, and then a kind of a host of optional elements that kind of surface through community input and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely, I'll keep you updated on how everything goes and how it plays out. It's a little unique, this process in every municipality, because the comp planning process itself is kind of suited and customized to each individual municipality as well.
We'll definitely let's keep updating each other on the progress on these fronts of how we integrate relevant information into the operations of our municipalities, our communities, on all these fronts. I mean, that's what this is all about. This isn't trying to check boxes, get points, and say we did something when it doesn't have any real world impact. So that's the whole point of everything we're doing or trying to do. So good conversation.
And I'd love to continue to be a part of these, task force meetings and keep the discussion going and conversations about all the projects we're working on moving forward and all that. So if you have,
we will have you. We appreciate you and all that you and your organization are doing. So it's great. Again, this is about information and understanding of what's happening. The more we know, the more we can communicate out and vice versa. So let's move along now. Thanks for that update. I'm not sure there's much of an update here, Don. Clean Energy's grant program, but tell us how we're doing on the EVs and EV charging infrastructure for the county.
Yeah, no changes in on our applications. We're all making their ways through the process at various stages. We have ordered the $15,000 worth of electric landscaping equipment, and as soon as that arrives, we will submit our paid invoices and get reimbursed for that. The DSS building, the $15,000 grant we got to apply for the DSS building, solar panels. Those solar panels are now connected to the grid. They're producing electricity. We're having a little meeting to go over that dashboard. It'll be similar to the one on the highway garage. It'll show the electrical production daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, etc. So again, we just have to get the final paid invoices for those solar panels submitted, and we'll get reimbursed for that. We submitted for the 2 level 2 chargers at 11 Warren Street, and since that one was under a $30,000 grant, they're just going to send us a check for those two level 2 chargers down at 11 Warren Street, and I believe we can probably start the work on installing those at any time. I'll have to check with Ray Jakowski, the engineer, about where that project is. The other ones are still, we have to wait for a contract to come through from NYSERDA, so that should happen next week, hopefully. That's what my NYSERDA contact told me.
When you say the others, are you talking about the EV, the other?
Yeah, the other 14 EV chargers and the 4 electric vehicles. There's a contract that we have to sign between the county, because that's a larger grant number. There's a contract that has to be signed between the county and NYSERDA.
Right.
And that has to be reviewed by a county attorney, etc. So
right.
That's where that is.
Was there a 5th car? I thought there was a 5th.
Yes, there's one. There's one more. That is, again, that's going through that is a separate from the other 4. This is sort of an add-on because we didn't use all the initial money from that grant. So we have an opportunity to buy a 5th electric vehicle for the health department. That's going through. It's a long I know it's a long bureaucratic process, but this is just what we have to do. That's going through the committee, getting approved by the board of supervisors, and we'll go back to NYSERDA for the contract, and the contract comes back to the county signs it, then the contract goes back to NYSERDA and they sign it, and then we can buy that 5th vehicle.
Right.
So overall there's a total of 8 grants, CEC grants, that I'm tracking right now in various stages of either documenting that the money has been spent or following it through the Board of Supervisors approval process. That's total $672,500 for 8 different grants I'm keeping track of.
Thank you for doing that, Don, and for the update. One question is it still true, or do I recall this correctly, that if we install a certain amount of this infrastructure by a certain date, I remember late summer, fall, it unlocks more funding? Yes.
So if we can, and I'm going from memory here, I think if we can purchase 3 electric vehicles and get 2 or 4 level 2 chargers installed before October 1st, then we would qualify for another $412,500 grant through CEC. If we don't make that deadline, then we don't lose the grant. It just decreases down to a $300,000 grant instead of the $412,500. But we are still looking for a project to spend that money on. So that's the effort that's going on inside county government right now. Talking to the engineer, trying to find a project to spend that money on.
What are the, maybe it's not developed enough to know what the candidate projects are.
Initially, we're looking at more solar panels, especially at the solid waste site on Newman Road in Greenport. The problem there is we ran into a capacity issue with the grid in that particular area. It's sort of already completely built out for solar panels. I don't know if they're talking to National Grid about expanding capacity there or not, or there are some other heat pump installations in other county buildings that Ray Jakowski has mentioned might be another possibility.
Right. And there is a zero emission vehicle grant program for vehicles that is now available again. It's an annual program for, I'm saying this, obviously you know about it, Don, and if there was a desire to try to apply for more funding now for more vehicles, it sounds like there may not be an integration with the current fleet for more vehicles at this point this year. I don't know if that's the case, but it's important for everyone to know that grant is again out there and available. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, or
I don't believe we can combine that grant with the CEC grant. They have to be, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. But that was just recently renewed, and it's on the DEC website that program is just renewed like last week or so.
So in terms of the additional funding of $300,000 or $400,000+, what about using that for once this infrastructure is in place, we'll want more vehicles. What about more vehicles for next year?
Yeah, that's another possibility too. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't talked to anybody specifically. The problem with the vehicles is most of the vehicles in the fleet right now, county fleet, are fairly new. So,
And they're leased mostly?
Yes. Most of them are. There are some that aren't leased, but most of them are leased. But we can replace leased vehicles with an own vehicle. So we can, but I think we just released a whole bunch of brand new vehicles like last year or so. So they're still, and I think we leased them for like a 3-year time period.
Okay. Sorry, Tara, you've had your hand up for a whole long time, so go ahead.
No worries. I just wanted to basically commend the county because I think I know the county has brought in more money from this latest round 3.0 of the program than any other community in the capital region. So almost by double. So congrats to that. And also, what you were just talking about was how you're using the money, which is all a very difficult task for a lot of communities to kind of figure out how to use it. And you've done a fantastic job of kind of identifying projects. And Don, of course, you're just killing it. So I think that's a great example for other communities that are struggling to use this and can use your template maybe as a way to kind of think about how to use their funding that they get. So it's a great job.
Did you guys hear that? Don's killing it. So if anyone asks about our Climate Smart work, make sure you mention that we've got a great coordinator who's killing it. I don't know if that out of context may not be the right term to use.
I'm just doing the math, Dave.
Yeah,
just
doing the math.
Numbers in those
He's just a planner. He's just a planner. Yeah, I love it. With humility. Okay, Christina.
Hi. I just wanted to throw into the ring of suggestions for that money that you might want to look at geothermal for some of the buildings rather than air source heat pumps, as that would qualify for the direct pay through the IRA for government, which air source don't. So that's another 30% that would be reimbursed if you would would choose to go in that direction.
Mhm.
Okay, moving along. Thank you, Christina. Any other questions or comments on the clean energy work being done, the grants? Quick announcements. Don, tell us about. It's on the agenda. I think it speaks for itself, but maybe you want to add the Household Hazardous Waste Day coming up.
Just wanted to reiterate that this Saturday, May 4th, is it's at the Fire Training Center on Granite Drive in Commerce Park is the county household hazardous waste collection day. So anybody has any old oil-based paint or fuel or it's
batteries. Yeah.
It's all the items are listed. It's listed on our website and the county solid waste website. What the things that they accept.
Check it out. Spread the word. Put it on whatever social media websites you can for your town. Get the word out so people know to get rid of their stuff. This is the way to do it safely and responsibly. Thanks, Christina. Tell us about the what's going on with the Clean Energy Hub.
Hi. Not too much to report. We do have educational events coming up in June in, I believe, both Canaan and Austerlitz. And I'll get you those details when they're finalized. We're also going to actually be doing just over in Greene County at Audrey's office in Accra. We will be doing an event May 30th. And then we're also going to be working with the Spark of Hudson to lead a conversational program around climate change. And that is slated for early June. And I will get you that date as soon as that's finalized as well. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that, you guys are doing so much good work, and I know it falls heavily to volunteerism. And I was just thinking that it might be worth the county looking into getting a climate justice fellow, which is a program through NYSERDA that would pay for a full-time employee for 1 year period at a time to particularly look at equity in all of this climate planning. And I think that would be really excellent during the CAP time as well.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. Is that now a program that's now open receiving applications?
It is, yeah. And I can send you and Don the info after.
Please do. That's a great idea. And certainly a big part of what we're hoping to focus on in the CAP and in general. So thanks, Christina. Really appreciate that. So quick update Matt Stinchcomb couldn't be on the call. He wanted to be, but he was on another call related to part of the announcements for the work that Partners for Climate Action is doing. They're in the process right now. They're about to announce, and so I'll pre-announce, grants being offered for youth-led climate action projects. And they'll be inviting applications from nonprofits, youth-led organizations, municipalities, and libraries in Columbia, Greene, Ulster, Dutchess, Putnam, and Orange counties for youth-focused climate initiatives, $1,000 to $5,000 grants that'll be issued. It'll be a fast turnaround, engaging people between 15 and 24, designing, producing, and overseeing urgent climate solutions, action-oriented projects with clear impact. There'll be more information. I've got more here, but it'll be announced early next week. So if you have any ideas or people to promote this with, get it out there. The applications will be out, and the deadline will be June 14th. So it's a fast turnaround, and they want to get the money out within a few months afterwards. So these are projects that are going to be done this year, this calendar year, and this is through a Bloomberg grant that they've received. And if they spend the money, they'll get even more money to do more restoration work. And so that's very exciting. As you may recall, they, meaning Partners for Climate Action, successfully closed a round of grants on ecological restoration. Over $300,000 was distributed last year to a slew of nonprofits and municipalities for, I can't remember how many projects, many projects throughout the regional area of multiple county regional region. And those projects are being kind of implemented and monitored and will be reported on. They're very exciting projects that are larger in some cases in terms of the size of the grants than the smaller project. They are also in the process of raising another fund to do another round of these restoration grants, which we hope will include more focus or additional focus on forest and tree planting initiatives, which is kind of a continuation of the exploration that we did this winter to try to get a project done this spring with a couple partners in the county. Those projects didn't come to fruition, but we learned a lot through it, and we expect we can continue to work toward projects with them and others in the future. One of the limitations we found was the technical aspects of project management and expertise in landscape design in really bringing projects through to implementation. This effort would hopefully include some capacity to do that as well as funding. The last update, and more on that will come soon, is the decarbonization grants. So separately, Partners for Climate Action had issued a call for applications for decarbonization grants for local municipalities. And in late March, they announced that 20 new grant awards were given out, totaling $660,000 to assist municipalities in the Hudson Valley to reduce carbon footprint in buildings, one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions we know. 67% of the funding will be directed to applicants based on to disadvantaged communities in the area, and 14 of the grants will be used for implementation projects, including solar, heat pumps, ground source geothermal, insulation, air sealing, efficient windows and doors. 2 applicants received the maximum $100,000 award offered, and Hudson River Housing will use their grant to install rooftop solar and green retrofit and a green retrofit project serving for a facility that's serving housing homeless people, homeless families. And the YMCA of Kingston and Ulster counties will install insulation, heat pumps, and more efficient windows and doors in their gym, which will make the facility more usable, especially in the summer. There's much more here. These are big projects that are happening through private philanthropy in our community, and it's through these kinds of public-private partnerships that we move the dial. It's about really getting money out there in an organized fashion to implement projects. It's about the projects that Don is leading up for the county, that's where the rubber hits the road. He's managing 8 grants. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes. So groups like PCA and the work that Don is doing in the planning department and the work that you all are doing in your communities, it's not glamorous when you're managing 8 grants and all the paperwork. It's the minutia, but getting the money out there, getting these projects implemented is what's going to move the dial. What is moving the dial? So it's something I get a lot of inspiration from and gives me a lot of optimism for the future. So more to come there. I don't know if anyone has anything to add. We're basically at that time on the agenda for any other updates that people have or questions or comments. So I'll just open it up. Steve.
Hey there.
Hey.
Couple things. I was in a webinar yesterday, and Brenda, you may have been on that one too, from AOT, Association of Towns, And they said that in the latest budget, the CCSC grants that used to be 50-50 match have now been modified to 80-20. So the towns would only have to put out 20% for that. So that, I thought that was interesting. The other thing is congratulations to Copake for making bronze level. And we'll congratulate New Lebanon because we achieved the silver level as well. So we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. We're one of there are only 2 towns in the state that achieved silver this year. This round, sorry, not this year. And there's only, I think, total 8 towns, and the rest are counties that have achieved it. So everybody, you can do it. If we can do it, you can too.
You're an inspiration.
David, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted, and I was just saying what Brenda was saying, which is you're always an inspiration and you're leading the way, Steve. And we appreciate that leadership and the example. It's great work. And I know a lot of folks are doing really good work at different parts of the process. Any other updates? I had a quick update on the rail trail. There's not really an update. They're working on for the Northwest 11 from Philmont up to Chatham. The Rail Trail Association, the Harlem Valley Rail Trail Association, received a grant earlier last year, middle of last year, to basically engineer that whole section, 11 miles or so, and come up with a shovel-ready plan, including permitting and all the obstacles that exist with bridges, overpasses, rebuilding things, some private land that's owned in different sections along the way. And they're working on that plan, and they should get that should be finished by the end of the year. And then it'll be a matter of raising quite a bit of money. They estimate on the whole, it's about $1 million a mile. And that's just because some of the projects are really expensive. So there's many sections that don't cost nearly that much. But overall, their history of all of the rail trail work they've done, given some of the huge projects that they've had to undertake that are very costly, that's what it's cost on average. So not to say that this will be an $11 million project to go from Philmont to Chatham, but it'll happen in sections. There'll be a lot of efforts to raise money, but things are slowly moving along, and we'll make sure that we continue to get updates and figure out if there's any way that we can support, the county or this task force or our towns can support that effort moving forward. Steve, did you have another comment, or is your hand still up? Okay. I thought there was more. I was excited. Okay. Anything more? All right. Go out there and continue the good work, everyone. We'll reconvene in a month, and don't be shy. Reach out to Don, to me, if you have anything you want to add or questions. And I think that's a wrap.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Don?
Thank you.